Hello, my name is Hurston Fales. I'm co-founder and chief product officer at Storytailor. Today is very exciting. We're going to create your first story. Let's hop in. All right, so we're going to create your first story. We're going to do this in a very quick manner. So all of the things involving the detail of the story, the detail of the hero, all of the things will be covered in later videos. So for right now, we're just going to try to make a story as quickly as possible to get that first story in your library. So you'll notice in my particular library, I have a multitude of stories. That's because I've created quite a few over time. For you, it may be empty, and that's okay. We're going to put your first story in it right now. So you'll want to go to create a story. I know it says and story, but create a story and click on that button. Now we have the opportunity to pick from 8 different story types. We have an adventure story, educational story, a bedtime story, a big emotion story, birthday celebration, language learning, pediatric bravery, and motor skill story. For the sake of this particular activity, we're going to go ahead and select adventure story. Okay, now that we're inside of our adventure story, the very next thing that we're going to do is create our story idea. For the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and click the surprise me button. This was a feature that was added for a neurodivergent parent who expressed to us that she wanted to be able to create stories in Storytailor, but brain wasn't actually functioning the way that she needed it to be as imaginative as her child's. So create this cool button that allows the story to be generated pretty quickly. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be very whimsical and kind of hilarious. Okay, and here's our story. Max, the kid muffin, teams up with talking llamas to surf Milky Way shakes on glittery waffles while dodging cosmic booger blasters and befriending moon crabs that dance flamenco on floating jelly beans. That's a pretty wild story. Let's go ahead and bring it to life. So, what's happening right now is a story is being written. It's being assessed for context to make sure that it's kid safe and to make sure no inappropriate things snuck into the story by accident. And you can't even actually submit profane words, so that wouldn't even allow you to do it at this stage either. Next, it's proofreading. It's going through that reading process one more time because it's generated the story. Now it wants to double check the context to make sure that it reads correctly, that it follows a 3-act, 26-beat structure that is more aligned or akin to something you would find in a kid's show or in a cartoon or even in a kid's movie. After it wraps up proofreading, it goes right into editing. In editing mode, it's doing the final touches. It's assessing the actual imagery that gets generated for the story. It's also checking the context one more time to make sure that it makes sense, and it's generating the off-screen activities for you to keep the party going outside of the story that was built. And here we are, Max and the Milky Way Adventure. It's got that really weird, kind of crazy, whimsical art. You'll also notice that in your story, the art stays left aligned as you scroll. So your story scrolls to the right. I have the account. So in this particular case, I have the ability to create audio. I can also edit my story. And every person has the ability to actually share their stories as well. We'll talk about sharing later. We'll also talk about editing and creating the audio in later videos. Down at the bottom, we have interactive activities. We have 5 that are interactive themselves, and then we have 5 that are reading activities. So a total of 10 off-screen activities for you to continue to keep the party going outside of Storytailor. Last and certainly not least, you have the ability to delete your story from here or create a sequel if you loved this story as much as your young one did. And there you have it. That is your first story. It's been created. You have your beautiful story art, and you have the ability to share in the experience with the young person in your life. So this concludes creating your first story. Congratulations. You'll be able to create many more stories as your storyteller journey continues. You also have the option to pick from other story types, which we highly encourage because we have found that as people engage in creating more stories of varying types, the more they love the platform and get the most out of it. In the videos that follow, we'll dig deeper into what it takes to better optimize your Storytailor account to get the experience you deserve.